Well, I hope that some of you came last week. If not, you can see the first part on our Sunday virtual lessons on that list of the ones that were in the past. Today, we're going to be continuing our research on the Wiki. This is part 2 of using the Research Wiki. And my name is Jerroleen Soresnsen. I am a volunteer missionary at the BYU Family History Library. I would just like to say hello to Carrie. She's an old friend of mine that we haven't seen for probably 30 years, so it's great to have you here today, Carrie. I would like to remind you, if you weren't here, if you weren't here last week, that the Wiki has changed very recently. So if you try to find other information about it, be careful, because some of it won't be possibly accurate, because the Wiki did change in March of 2021. So let's get started. We're just going to quickly review what we learned last week. We won't go into too much detail again, because hopefully you will have watched that one or will watch it. So what is the Research Wiki? Again, Wiki means quick in Hawaiian. So this is a quick way to learn new information about your family. It tells you how to find data, where to find data, and how to analyze and use the data that you find. It's free. It's online in the Family Search Family Tree site, and it's a genealogical guide created just specifically to help people find databases, websites, resources, strategies, and have genealogical guidance so that we can search for our ancestors very well and find them. There are locality pages for countries around the world. Not every single country has a lot of genealogy online yet, but they try to get as many things as possible. There are topic pages that include pertinent genealogy record types, explanations of how to use the records, and what each record contains and how to find it. So how to get there, I'll remind you, you will go into your Family Search Family Tree, find your home page. It should come up on the home page unless you have another one bookmarked. Then you'll click on the search menu up there at the top where you see the arrow, and then you'll search under Research Wiki. Click on that. You can also create a bookmark on your browser toolbar or a shortcut icon on your monitor. And then you can just get there just with one click. You can get through it also from your browser. This is how the Wiki homepage looks. I'll remind you, on the left, you have a lot of hyperlinks that go to, or text links, some of them, most of them are text links, go to different pages within the Wiki itself. I'm not going to go into the detail on that because we talked about it last week, and you can see that in part 1. And then in the middle, you have the search by place or topic you can see here, the list of all localities, which you will click on these little things as well. To get that list, you can click on the boxes that have the continents in it. And then you can also click on the guided research box there. Now, this week, we're going to actually use the Wiki to do some research. Last week, I kind of showed you a little bit, I kind of guided you through a little bit of how it works. This week, we're going to actually do an exercise. So if you have a double monitor, if you have 2 monitors, or you know how to split your screen to work so that you can work in Family Search, you can do that today, or you can come back to it and do it next week so that you can actually get the ability to do this yourself. My goal here today is to let you be able to do these exercises so that you can figure it out on your own later when you want to do it with someone specific to yourself. So the first one we are going to do, if you've got yourself set up a little bit, if you have your Family Search open in another screen or in another window, what we're going to do right now is we're going to research an ancestor who lived in Lancashire, England, about 1850. So we know her name. Her name was Mary Ann Wilcock, and her approximate date of birth is about 1850. It may or may not be exactly that, but we know that she was born about in that time period. Other relatives of hers that we have found already lived in that Wigan area. So she comes from that area. Her family all lived in the Wigan area in Lancashire. And so we assume that she may have also been born there. We're not positive, but we think she might have been. We want to find a birth record for her. We want to verify her date of birth, and we want to find her parents' names. So we can use these same basic steps that we're using today to find marriage and death records. So this particular exercise will help you with your guided research for birth, marriage, and death. It basically is the same process. So we're going to use this with guided research today. Step one is, of course, to find the wiki. So if you're working with me, go ahead and click on the research wiki so that you can come up to this page. Now, as I told you, you can get to guided research two ways. You can either click on the left-hand menu where it says guided research, that is a text link, and it will take you directly to the guided research page that we're going to go to now. The second way you can do it is to click on guided research. So if you're at the wiki, click on one of those two, either the guided research or the box that says guided research. What will come up when you do that is this maps page. So this is similar to the map that's on the main page of the wiki, but it's all in blue, and it brings you up a list of the countries. Now, if you look, you can see that that list is not very long. There are only a few countries so far that they've been able to put into the guided research. It takes a lot of time, and this is a brand new tool. So be patient. If your country that your ancestry is from is not on this list, eventually, if there's anything at all that they can give you with births, marriage, and deaths, they will eventually get it there, but it's going to take some time. So just be patient, I guess, is the only thing I can say to you. Now, if you came here accidentally, you can always return home by clicking on the return to the wiki homepage. If you don't find the country that you need on this list. Okay, so click on that. We're going to click on England. And so you can go ahead and click on England with me, and then we will wind up here. Now, this is different for every country. This is not necessarily the same. I mean, they won't necessarily have a county map like this on another country. So don't get, worried about it. Just follow the instructions that are there. If you know the country, then you can search on the province or the département, or on the state, or whatever it is that they have as their smaller little areas within the country, their regions. If you don't know the county, they'll usually have a way to find out how to figure out which county or which state or whatever they lived in. So here you could look at the English jurisdiction map, which will tell you which different cities would report to different counties and so on. And there's also an article about finding towns of origin. We know that she lived in Lancashire, and so we're going to click on Lancashire. And you can see that county up in the left hand with the purple arrow there. It's on the left part, the western side of England. So we're going to click on that. And when we click on that, we're going to get to the parish, the birth, deaths, and marriages, and it will direct us to the parish here. You can see that. If you already know the parish, this is just part of the article that came up for you. The title of it is Lancashire, England Guided Research, but I didn't want to put the whole page on, so it was too small. So you can see birth. Where can I find birth records? It says to start here. Now, if you're England, the OPC really is a great place to go in Lancashire and there are other OPCs as well. These are the parish records that different people have put together from different parishes, and you can search those. But We don't know which parish she's in, so we're going to skip that. It won't really help us. And if it says, if the birth record was not found, wherever they sent you on the start here, and they'll usually have a start here. If it wasn't found or you can't use that for whatever reason, then you can go to a different, they'll give you a different list of other things that you can do. Here we just have 3 things. So we'll click on the Lancashire birth collections that are in Family Search. There are actually 2 others that you could look at in Ancestry and Find My Past. When you click on that, you'll have a form that comes up if it's in Family Search. Now, if you go to another site, like Ancestry or whatever, if you don't have an Ancestry or Find My Past count or whatever it sends you to, and it's a paid site, you won't be able to use it unless you pay for it. But Family Search is free, so it will bring up a form, and this just tells you to fill in the form that comes up, use all the information you know. Since we don't know that birth date exactly, we're going to put in 5 years on either side of it. So we'll put, you can put up to, I usually like to use 2 years to begin with and then widen the range, but this time we'll use 5. Be sure to click on the English births and collections filter. If you're going to a collections and Family Search, if you don't click on the collections filter, it will search everything, and that will just confuse you a great deal, and it's not really easy to use. So only search the collection that you're going to. So here's the form, and you can see it says indexed historical records. So here I've entered her name, Mary Ann Wilcock, and I'm searching for her birth. I said 5, but actually that's what I usually do, is 2 on either side of her birth. So birth range 1852 to 1854. You could put anything from 10 years, 20 years. You can put anything in there. You can just put 1 year if you want, if you know closer to what it was. I mean, I actually really know her birth year, which is probably why I put that in there. Accidentally, sorry about that. And then you need to put in the country, and if you know the state of the province, that it makes an enormous difference as well. We know that it's Lancashire, so put that in. We click the birth, baptism, and christening will automatically come up from guided research. You won't have to click that, but if there's another record that you want to look for, you can also click other of those categories of types. And then the last thing you want to check is down there on the bottom where it says England births and christenings, that last purple arrow on the left. You really need to make sure that's clicked, because if it's not, then if you don't find that research database, then it will just come up with a whole bunch of different things that you may not really want. So make sure that's clicked. If it doesn't come up and you can't see it, just go to all the 104 collections that it says there and just find the one that you are looking in. It should come up though if you're using guided research. Then you click on search, and then this is what comes up. This is your records just in that collection. So you look at the results, just look down the list and see what may be the best one. Now this one comes up with 5. If you look at the first one, it looks like it might actually be pretty useful because it says principal. That means that's the one that's on the actual database as the principal person. It does give a father and a mother. Her christening date is 1853, which is in that range. But Preston is in Lancashire, but because I'm familiar with Lancashire, I know that Preston is actually quite a ways away from Wigan, and it is not a place where they were using that. Now, if you cannot figure that out and you don't know the area that you're working in, there are a couple of ways you can find that out. You can go back to that guided research page. I mean, not to the guided research. You can go back to the Wiki home, and you will find there that same place again, or you can go back to that original article if you don't want to search by the specific place. You can find the original article, and then they'll usually have maps. They'll have other places, other things like, for example, where the jurisdictions were and so on. So you can look at that. An easy way to do it, if those areas are still around, if it's not too far back, is to just go to Google and go to Google Maps, find the place, and then look around and see how close things are to it. I use Google Maps a lot in my research to help me. So if I didn't know that Preston was not that close to Wigan, then I would go to the next one and look at that one and see that it says Abram, Lancashire. Then I would go to the next one, I would see Manchester, which also I would need to find out how close that was to Wigan. Another Preston, and then another called Tatham. Well, I've got 5 people that could possibly be my person. I'm going to go back to that original article and I'm going to look at that jurisdictions article that I pointed out to you. And it's going to tell me that Abram is a city that actually was in the civil registry of Wigan. So that makes me think, okay, I suspect this may be her for sure. I might have to come back and look at some of these other ones later if it doesn't turn out to be this way. So I'm going to view her, and you can see on the right where that purple arrow is that there's a little document there. And you'll click on that document and it will let you view the document. And you can, oh, this is the page I was telling you about, the civil registration, just for your information. You can also see there will be maps over here and history, jurisdictions, and all that kind of stuff. So always use your article. Okay, so this will take you to the record. And in some of these, it says you can view an image. This one actually does have an image, and you can see on the left-hand side, it says check image availability. And you can click on that and it will tell you whether or not the image is actually in Family Search's database. This one does happen to be there. It also gives you the source reference on the microfilm. So this is a microfilm record, and it gives you where the digital folder is, the microfilm number, and so on, the indexing batch. Now, if you clicked on that, you would see that you would have to search through a whole bunch of images to find her. And I did that. It took me about 5 minutes or less to find that image. Sometimes it will take longer. In this particular case, it took me about 5 minutes to find the image. I'm going to show you the image. I think I have it here somewhere. Oh, am I going backwards? Yes, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, let me go back. I do have that image somewhere, but I guess I didn't put it on here. Okay, here we are again. Okay, so that you can find the image. It's sometimes takes a little bit of time to do that. Because I found the image, I realized that it was the right person, because I knew her father was a collier and he was a collier. So on that record, it's very, very helpful. And I would always recommend to you that you check the image and then look at it if you possibly can. If you are able to have an ancestry or find my past, usually ancestry. Ancestry has these most of the birth and marriage and death records that are available in Family Search. Sometimes they're easier to see the actual image on Ancestry because the way their search engine works a little differently for their images. So that's just kind of a plug for those of us who can get an Ancestry account to get one. Just really for that reason, if no other, just because sometimes it's a lot easier to find the images. If you know what the image is, you can find it really easily on Ancestry. Now, since I looked at that image and I saw that, okay, her father was a collier, they lived in Abram, and it was in St. Thomas, which I've got some other ancestors who were born there and christened there, I think to myself, okay, this is probably her. Now, I can attach that now to the Marianne Wilcock that I have. She already has all her information. This was just for demonstration purposes, as it were. So, but this record would not be attached. You can see it says attached to family tree. So I didn't have to create her. She's already there. But I did find her parents, and I did find her christening date and her birth date, as you can see. So that's really great. I've got 2 dates and her parents. Now I can attach it to the tree. There are other similar records that you can see. There's the census record here that's already attached to her, and her 1871 census record. They don't have birth dates on them. So this is nice because now I know her exact date. Census records often will tell you within a year or 2 of when they're born, but they're not exact. So this is a really helpful record for me to have for this ancestor of mine. So yay, excitement, and I was really happy to find that. So the next exercise we're going to do is researching a topic. Something that's really great about the wiki is you're not just looking for records. You can look for a lot of other different things. You can find information about historical happenings that your ancestor might have been involved in. For example, one of my ancestors was in the War of 1812, and we found some really great information about that war and articles about his regiment, and he won a medal there. And so we were looking for all that kind of things, and we found them in the British historical records and some of the articles that they have here on this beautiful, wonderful research wiki. So this time we're going to do historical research on an ancestor who fought in the United States Civil War from 1861 to 1865. His name was Michael McGowan. We know his name. We know also that he lived in Kansas. And so we're pretty sure, we've been told in family records that he was a soldier in one of the militias in that state. We're not sure which militia, but we've been told in records that we have from the family that he was in a militia. So for this one, it's just a little bit different. We're going to first go to the wiki. We already know how to do that. So we'll get to the wiki. Then we're going to type into the topics bar up there. It's the search bar where that little magnifying glass symbol is. And we start typing in United States Civil War. When you start typing that in, you'll get a list of things. You can click on that list, or you can type in an exact topic. If you don't know exactly what topic you might be looking for, but you kind of have an idea, you can just type in some words and see if anything comes up. If you know the exact topic that you're looking for and you want to continue to just type, then it will come up with the exact topic. And you can see here this little magnifying glass with the cross in it. That means you need to click on that and it will take you to that exact page. Okay, so that's an exact page, United States Civil War, 1861 to 1865. So we're going to click on that little magnifying glass, and it's going to come up to this this page. Now, again, I didn't put the entire page in. The page is actually the United States Civil War, 1861 to 1865. There's some stuff at the top that has a lot of interesting articles. There's record types list you can see here. Of course, there weren't any aircraft accidents. This is just about military things in general over here. You can see aircraft accidents and so on. That's just the military of the United States in general. So you're not going to find aircraft, of course, in the Civil War. And then on this right side, you see some really cool stuff. So they've got the Union and they've got the Confederate records in different places. And then you can find biographies, casualty records. If you know that the person got hurt, for example, you can look up the casualty records. If you know that he survived the war, you can look up pension records and find his widow's name. You can see if he was put in prison during that time, during the war. in a war prison, and so on. And it's so there's a lot of stuff there that we could look at right now to see if we could find more about him or more about the war itself. It's a really great resource. We're only going to today, we're going to just look in Kansas because we know that he was in Kansas. So you can click on one of the states if you want to find out more about a particular state during the war. And there are different articles about each one of the states that was in the war. So we're going to click on Kansas. Don't click on the map in this case, because the map will only it'll just enlarge the map for you. This just tells you which states were in which area of the war, which side of the war they were fighting on. Now, if you have, this comes up when you click on that. If you have a MyHeritage, for example, this is just an example of some things that you might find when you click on things. If you have a MyHeritage.com, for example, or you have a FindMyPast.com account, this comes up and you can see that there's a U.S. Confederate Army payroll for enslaved labor there that you could click on. They have a official Army registry at Find My Past that you can click on for the soldiers that were in the war. And then also U.S. Civil War soldiers at MyHeritage. Those are paid sites, but you can use them if you have an account or if you want to pay a little bit of extra money just to use that database. Now, this is the next step. So we clicked on Kansas, and we found that we have this article about Kansas in the Civil War. And you can look at that menu. We've got an introduction that tells us a little bit about it. Then we have Kansas military units, records that we can find from Kansas, service records, officers from Kansas, Civil War pension index cards. And then there are other sources, the Grand Army of the Republic, which was after the war, like a soldiers association, and then Sons of the Union, Veterans of the Civil War, which is kind of like the DAR. And then they have a reference section. So we want to find out what unit he was in. So we're going to, we can click on the units, 1st to 22nd or A to Z. And there's a big long list there of the units. And if you kind of have an idea, it's easier because then you can click on the unit and see if he actually was in that unit. We don't have a clue, and that big long list of units is not really going to be that helpful for us. So we're going to go down to the other sources and references and see what we can find. Under references, we find that they have the National Park Services.gov Civil War search. So we click on that. It comes up with the National Parks Civil War database, and we can enter his name, and we can find out he was in the 1st Regiment of the Kansas Infantry. On the Union side, in G&H Company, he was a private when he came in. He was a private when he left. There's an alternate name, which is probably his military roll number. And then there's no film that we can find any kind of original of this record. But we at least found him, and we know what regiment is. Now what we can do is go back to that article that we were previously at and look up the 1st Regiment. And now we can find out some history about that regiment, what battles they were in, and you'll be just absolutely astounded how much information you'll be able to find about the Civil War. And maybe not necessarily him personally, he may be on some pension rolls and some other things, but at least you'll know some of the interesting, fun things that about him as a soldier. Some of them might not have been so fun, actually, if he was in some nasty battles. Okay, the last one we're going to do is to find a specific type of record. Now, in this case, we're going to try to find that 1860 census for Kansas. They're not necessarily always state specific, so we're going to look for the United States Census first and see if we can find that census. So we're going to look there, And we're going to go to the research wiki, which you already know how to do now. And this time, instead of typing something like the Civil War, we're going to type in the United States Census, which is a specific record, okay? So the United States Census is a specific record as opposed to maybe a whole group of databases that are all in one article, like we found under the Kansas article, for example. Now, when you click on the United States Census, again, it will come up with the magnifying glass with the slash through it. So you'll click on that slash, that cross magnifying glass, and then you'll come up with this page on the right that's the United States Census page. If you don't know anything about the United States Census, you can see there the beginner's corner. You can learn all about it from those articles, and they will tell you many things about the United States Census, and it's one of the most valuable records we have for people who lived in the United States from early in the 1800s until now, really. I mean, you can't get into modern records, but they're still taking it. And it tells you when they cover, what time periods they cover. That was in the Constitution, that they take the census. The early censuses are very spotty, and they don't have a lot of information on anybody but the householder. But once you get into the later censuses, there's so much information in there about occupations, when they came into the country, their ages, where they lived. Some tell where they lived 5 years before. It's just a really fascinating and wonderful record. And then it also will tell you how you can get to the census and find the different censuses. Some states even took censuses, so that you need to find even state censuses, and some search strategies. And then there is a US Census Records class handout. I'm not sure, I actually haven't looked at that, so I'm not sure what that has in it, but it may be even more complete than some of the articles, or this particular article. Now, we know a little about the census, so we're not gonna look up these topics. There are tons of topics there you can see. Availability is a good one because not all the censuses are available. Online censuses, which ones are online and which ones have been completely put in a database, and are there any substitutes? If you can't find a person in the census, where can you go? So on like that. And then there are actually schedules that are part of the census, but they don't have information about individuals on them. So that's the non-population federal schedules. And then the US Census types. So we have quite a few different kinds of censuses in the United States that were taken. Colonial, federal, Indian census, if you have American Indian ancestry, school censuses, state censuses, and territorial censuses. So there's all kinds. And then down here, you can see there's also a list of substitute records. So we're going to go down and we're going to click on the census that we're looking for, which is the 1860 census, because we know that our ancestor Michael McGowan lived in Kansas in the 1860 time period. So we're going to click on that, and there's one here on Family Search, as you can see, and there's one here on Ancestry.com. So we're going to click on the Family Search one here, so that we don't have to pay for it if we don't have an account, and they're basically the same. So you can find that census year, as we did, in that little table in the center of the article. You're going to click on that year, either Family Search or Ancestry. And then we're going to get to another form. I'll show you the form that will give you, that you can put all the specific information that you have about that person in, and then you can search the collection. So again, here we have, this one comes up because it is a specific collection that you're searching, the United States Census 1860. It actually has its own article on how to use the collection. And then you put in the name. In this case, this is a search, another search I did. I just took a picture of Mary Marie Owen Smith. She was born in Oneida, New York. And her birth year range was 1816 to 1820. In this case, I used 4 years instead of 5. Jackson Osborne Smith was her husband. And I'm going to restrict it by United States, and I want to find Utah. So if I were doing Michael McGowan, I would do exactly the same thing. I would put in Michael McGowan, born in Kansas he was born about 1835. And I don't know his spouse. And then I would put Kansas there. And then I would click search. Now, if you don't want them to find anything besides the things that were in that you know, then you'll click on match all terms exactly. Okay. And then it tells you that it's going to be browsing through 703,834 images. So that's what they're going to be looking for you. Isn't it happy that you don't have to browse through all 703,000 images? They will do it for you. So here's your result. If you don't get a result, then you can change those search parameters that were on that other page. And then if you don't get another result still, then try another website, try another database, go to one of those substitute sources and so on until, don't give up, in other words. And one of the most important things to remember is never give up, okay? Because millions of records are being added to the databases in Family Search every single year because people are indexing different records. So come back again, not necessarily to the census, but to other records. If you don't find what you're looking for the first time, don't say, oops, I hit a brick wall and leave it. Just keep coming back. It may take a few years, but you'll find things possibly, hopefully, eventually. So then you just do what we did the last time. We view that indexed information and we see that we can view on this one, the original, that little camera there means the original document is available. So we can see that image without having to search through a bunch of other images. So we'll click on the document. And it says Mary M. Smith, female, age 42, event date 1860, because that's the census. It was taken in Provo Valley in Utah. The event place is Provo Valley, Utah. The birth year was 1818, so that's pretty close. And she was born in New York. So we're like, yeah, I think that's probably her. And as you can see on the left, you have the original document there in an image. So it doesn't say that you have to check the image's availability because it's available. So then you can click on that. You can view the original document. There are no similar records found for her. She already has a page and this is already attached to her page. So I don't have to do anything with it. I just want to look at it. So I'm going to open it up. And here's the original record with her husband, Jackson Smith. Just for an interesting side note, these people, Jackson and Mary Marie, went back and forth between Utah and Iowa 3 times in their lifetime. So they really were Mormon pioneers in a real sense. They came back and forth in a wagon train 3 times. So Jackson, this particular census does not have any information I don't already know. So I'm sad about that. But, you know, at least I have a document here that I can put in my own personal records. I can snip this out, take a copy of it, and put it in my own personal file about these people. She happens to be my great-great-grandmother. And then I have just another piece of information about her. So that is one of the wonderful things about the Wiki. It gives us a chance to take things straight out of the record.